Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, I'll make the quesadillas exactly as ordered, but you pay the dry cleaners. My HS tried to punish me for filing a First Amendment lawsuit against them. I used it to get into my dream college. Shut up and turn on the gas? Okay. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I'll make the quesadillas exactly as ordered, but you pay the dry cleaners. Obligatory disclaimer: on mobile, non-English speaker, due to a previous post, I thought I write everything in my language and pass through Google Translation and the post it, but I may lose my reservation in hell. Still on hubby's account, an autocorrect error, and my son's hungry stomach, reminded me of my first conscious MC. It also kept away from Mexican food until I re-met my husband. Back in the beginning of the 21th century, I was working in a cafe/sandwich shop. It was a 24/7 shop in a prime location, in an area with a lot of uni students and very active nightlife, and the road was a major artery for anyone traveling in or out of the city. When I started, as a first-year uni student trying to make some money, the shop was one of 4 of a small chain. Gary, the owner/manager, has bought the rights from the original shop. Gary was also doing quality control for the shop, because at that point every shop had separate vendors. Fast forward 2 years. The original owners decide to incorporate, because they have a lot of offers for franchising and a couple of problems with quality control have appeared. So, they bought back all the shops and instituted a more centralized approach to vendors. That was good for Gary, because he was the owner of the building, so he basically became a salaried manager and got extra income from the rent. Initially, nothing changed. We were still number 2 in sales, product was good. Then D*CK entered the picture. Dick was the new regional manager. The small chain had become big enough to reach national level, and the person responsible for quality control. He was considered something of a golden boy, having a business degree, and helping with the expansion. The problem came from his ego. You see, D*CK had done a cooking workshop that provides a certificate, but nothing more, and considered himself something of a chef. His first major change was installing a crepe station. Not restaurant quality crepes, but crepes on the go, folded like a triangle. That is important for later. While A*TCH to learn at the beginning, it quickly became one of our best sellers. We usually went over 10 L of crepe mixture on a slow day. Having success with his first change, D*CK decided to apply his chef training and implement some new things. At that point in time, Mexican cuisine was becoming popular in my country, due mostly to cooking shows. D*CK decides to ride the trend and starts putting Mexican options on the menu. In reality, that meant 2 more set sandwiches and crepes, the ones on the board, and a few more customization options for sandwiches and crepes. And here begins the problem. As I said, Mexican cuisine was quite the new thing. Our country's cuisine is way different than the Mexican, especially on the spice level. A lot of the produce used for Mexican food was either rare or non-existent. But D*CK was adamant it was another win for him, found a vendor. And the quality started to fail. We started to receive buckets of pre-made chili and queso and jars of picked jalapenos and pre-made guacamole and pico de gallo dips. Also, blocks of white cheese labeled queso blanco. The queso was an orange paste with some red bits in it. According to hubby, under a bad light it could pass for bad queso, and the left a very plastic taste. It reminded of clay. One taste of that kept me away from Mexican food for a while. The jalapenos weren't jalapenos. They were pickled Thai green chilies, labeled as jalapenos, meaning they were way hotter than expected. I've never tasted the rest, but some adventurous customers that tried them weren't impressed. The only new thing that kind of sold was a plate of nachos. Basically because it was Doritos covered in queso. When it was heated, it became an orange liquid, a lot of bacon, and a lot of sausage. We have complained about the quality to Gary, but he couldn't do anything anymore, and D*CK doesn't backs down. Dick is a bit upset from the low sales. He blames us, you're not pushing them enough, and the customers, those barbarians couldn't recognize a filet mignon from a shank, but he sticks to his guns. And then brings corporate to the shop. Dick comes in with 4 people from HQ, 2 of them are the owners. They sit and D**ck comes and place an order of 5 quesadillas. It's a self-service shop. I ask how he wants them. Exactly as it says on the board and prepared exactly as I told you, he replies. Okay sir. I will call you when they're ready, I replied smiling. Now Dick, in all his chefy wisdom, has given us very specific instructions for the quesadillas. First, to take out of the way, it wasn't a proper quesadilla, it was a crepe. The instructions were, reheat the chili, start the crepe, place 1.5 ladles of reheated queso, add 1 ladle of the chili, add a tablespoon of chopped jalapenos, 1 tablespoon of queso blanco, half a tablespoon of guacamole and fold. Doing that produced a liquid mess, which tried really hard to escape from a thin crepe. We usually reheated the queso only for nachos. Especially in a crepe, we put it cold and let it reheat with the plate's heat to avoid the aforementioned mess. Cue malicious compliance. Me and the other girl working, make 5 quesadillas exactly as instructed. I took the order to the table, it was corporate after all, and waited for the results. 5 people, wearing white shirts and suits, bite into the quesadillas. The quesadillas almost simultaneously explode, raining melted cheese and red chili on them. Some of them have bitten a jalapeno, and the heat is hitting them hard. A few choice words were heard. We brought them 2 bottles of water for the heat and 2 full packs of napkins to clean what they could. Let's say the new menu wasn't a blast with HQ. After they left, D**ck came back. He was beyond angry. He approached the bench, bypassing the line, it was during one of our rush hours, and made a scene. The following dialogue is a bit censored. You stupid bitch. You made me look bad, because you don't like Mexican food. You can't even follow basic instructions. The cleaning of your mess will be deducted from your pay, and some other more offensive stuff. I was standing there dumbfounded, along with a long line of customers hearing his outburst. And then Gary intervened. Shut the F***ck up. What the F***ck did you say? D**ck replied. I said shut the fuck up. The girls followed your instructions to the letter. Don't try to blame them for your mistake. Or make them pay for your dry cleaning. Dick, I can do what the F***ck I want. And when I'm finished with them, maybe I'll find another manager for this shop. Gary, I would love to see you try. Dick, oh I will. I will, and he stormed out. Fallout. Immediately Gary called HQ and notified about what happened. He also gave an ultimatum. If something happened to his staff, the company would need to find a new location. 3 days later, we were notified that D**ck was fired. While his outburst was the main reason, one of the owners having a really bad reaction to the jalapenos. A week later, the Mexican menu was removed. During that part, they found out that D**ck had used the cheapest vendor for the new menu. The vendor had a reputation for shady practices, which partly explained the weird products. I stayed there until I finished uni and got a job in my field. The Mexican menu made a huge comeback 2 years before I left. This time, HQ had hired a proper chef to consult and find vendors. Now the ingredients are as authentic as possible and pico and guac are made daily in-house. They also have good queso now, although it took me a long time to try it. And no pre-packaged, pre-made chili. In fact, no chili at all. My repulsion to Mexican food ended when my husband took me to a proper Mexican restaurant and finally tested a proper Mexican meal. My HS tried to punish me for filing a First Amendment lawsuit against them. I used it to get into my dream college. Throwaway because it'll be easy to find my real identity. In 2008 I was involved in a federal lawsuit when my rural Texas high school tried to suspend me for wearing a shirt supporting then Democratic hopeful John Edwards. Hindsight is 2020. They said it was a violation of the dress code, which was only ever selectively enforced. My parents had my back and agreed that it was, to quote my very white dad, redneck cracker nonsense. I'll never forget during the initial meeting when my principal called in a school board member. He said that if I got suspended I would probably get kicked off the football team, and that could hurt me getting into college. It didn't matter, I was a miserable player and a smart kid, so it wasn't gonna be what took me to college. But the slimy fake concern as he tried to leverage my future against my speech is something I'll never forget. Anyway, as the case goes on, the squeeze gets tighter. First they have the football coaches try to get me to drop it, having the football coaches talk about how my selfishness means that they can't wear Fellowship of Christian Athlete shirts anymore, trying to embarrass me in front of the team. I'm a fat kid who openly plays Magic the Gathering in high school, hit me with your best shot, I have no shame. Next they host a meeting with all the teachers telling them I'm a problem, and that they need to keep an eye on me in case I slip up. I found this out years after the fact when I bumped into my English teacher at a friend's wedding. Finally, they just start pulling in students from my classes to get them to say bad stuff about me. I was a class clown, so this turns into every single dirty joke, rude comment, or loud fart I ever made getting reported to school administration. Which then leads to this awful little toady vice principal calling me and my parents in and reading them back in front of my mother. That one stung. My parents still knew it was bullsh*t, but who wants their locker room jokes aired in front of their mom? They used this as pretext to expel me for 6 weeks, citing inappropriate sexual conduct. They shoved me into the disciplinary alternative education program, and I am F***king steaming. The program is basically where they warehouse kids with emotional problems they can't handle. You just sit in a room in a refurbished insane asylum and can't do anything but read or use the computer for monitored educational purposes. You also get booted from extracurriculars while you're in there. I know at this point they want me to make a scene so they can punish me further, so I do the exact opposite. I channel all my rage and new free time into my schoolwork, doing homework I would usually ignore because I knew I could ace the test. Now I'm doing both and my GPA is climbing. I start looking into scholarships and find a bunch that are really interested in political activism, and guess who now knows a little bit about that? I apply and rip my school a new hole in every one. Then, I work with my dad and we find an attorney who will take our case pro bono, which means while the school bleeds fees it doesn't cost us anything to keep it in court. I spent those weeks like a monk, motivated entirely by spite, doing everything I could to make their bullsh*t work for me. I got out, got back on all my teams and ended up applying for a prestigious honors program at my dream school. Not only did I get in, but I got way more financial support than I thought I would. Eventually we lost the case, but the school had to abolish the dress code anyway, because they couldn't afford to get sued over it again. I don't like the idea that a school lost money, but man, they made the choice, they could have backed down whenever. Now I've graduated law school, am taking the bar in 2 weeks, and already have a job investigating government corruption. I'm getting paid to be a pain in the A**s of petty authority, and it's pretty sweet. Shut up and turn on the gas? Okay. This is a long story. This is really old event. And for the record, I am a decent enough human being to feel really bad about how this came out. After I was done feeling vindicated and amused. I felt extra bad because of those feelings, so I guess it somewhat balances. Back in the late 80s through the mid-90s my dad grew watermelons every year. It's a good cash crop but intensive on the physical labor side of things, and you're working hardest when the weather is hottest. You have to work really hard to pick the melons when they are ready to pick, as healthy vines will bump out growth on the remaining melons fast in late June, so you can pick again in just a few days. So only a certain type of person is willing and able to really capitalize on the crop. My dad was just that certain type of person. He was transitioning all of his farming activity from row crops like corn and peanuts and cotton to pecans. He needed that summer cash crop of watermelons to stay afloat until the pecans were paying off. I worked for him at the time, and part of the successful transition from row crops to pecans hinged upon using buried drip irrigation for the pecans. For 6 years I buried drip irrigation for several months every year. We were able to water groves with $2,000 wells, instead of the $200,000 wells needed with sprinklers. Big difference. Anyway, we irrigated the melons with drip irrigation too. Only it wasn't durable stuff used on the melons. It was thin cheap stuff made to last a season and no more. The plastic film covering the beds was 1 mil thick, and would photodegrade from sunlight in a year. The drip tape itself did need to be picked up and disposed. So this one year my dad gets a bright idea to burn the film at the end of the season, instead of letting it break down slowly. A local AG company has a towable burn rig he can rent. Now this thing is just the sort of rig no one in their right kind would insure. I'll describe it, because it was a real monster. Okay, start with a 1,000-gallon propane tank. Huge kind you see in some yards that only have to be filled every couple of years. Now, you put that mamba jamba on top of a homemade trailer made to be pulled behind a farm tractor. And you hook up a pump to the PTO on the tractor so that it can pump the propane, not just let it flow from expansive properties. 'Cause you need a lot of propane to flow for this kind of beast. But the back of the homemade trailer has a support shaft mounted across it. And there are two long boom shafts on hinges that fold forward for transport, but can be locked perpendicular like wings when deployed. They are 16 feet long each. The trailer is 8 feet across. So when the wings are deployed, this bad boy spans 40 feet. Every 4 feet on all three shafts there is a torch. These torches are angled down and backwards. The idea is that a flaming jet of propane would hit every scrap of plastic film and burn it away. We won't even get into the environmental aspects. So, this was August, all the melons were done, ABD cleanup needed to happen. My dad rented this beast, had me hook it up to a tractor, and meet him in one of the fields. There were two controls up in the cab with THR operator. Both toggle switches. One of them was to turn on the gas 4 pilot lights on the torches. The other was to go full on burn everything in sight. But it was a windy day. Maybe 10 to 15 miles per hour average. I was not comfortable. I voiced my objections to burning on a windy day. And got shut down. Hard. Told to just FO as I was told. Okay then. So I'm sitting there in the cab following instructions. I get told to turn on the gas for the pilot light, so I do. And then I sit there for a good 5 to 10 minutes twiddling my thumbs because it's too damned windy to GE burning stuff. It's too windy to get the torches to light. The breeze is so stiff it is dissipating the gas and blowing out the old man's lighter repeatedly. And I'm just sitting there, doing as instructed. After another 50 or 60 failed attempts, my dad/old man/boss was reaching the end of his patience and yelled up at me to not just sit there. Turn on the full gas. Now, I was annoyed and didn't want to be out there, but this just seemed to be a bad idea. So I spoke up. Me, but that will dash. Him, shut up. Do what I said. Me, but. Him, shut up. Either flip that switch or get down here and light it while I flip it. We need more gas to get it to light. Me, flips the switch, Torch, ignites, Shoots a jet of flame directly onto the old man's sandaled feet, Yes. That's right. He was wearing sandals. And he lit a wide open jet of propane that was aimed directly at those sandaled feet. I let out a loud bray of laughter just as I flipped the switch to off. The old man's head swiveled away from his feet to me in a trice, but despite my guffaw, I had a sober morose expression plastered on. He couldn't wear shoes for a couple of weeks while he didn't need dressings on his feet. They were pretty well done. We didn't burn any watermelon film that year. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.